And now back to Deadline Live with Jack Blood. Joining us, America. John Boncour, Splitting the Sky, with us live on the program today, April 21st, 2009. Again, I'm Jack Blood. This is American Freedom Radio. SplittingTheSky.net. You can go over there, find out how to donate to his legal fund to keep him out there and in public and doing all this great work. I mean, when we listen to him and what he's been through, I think there's no doubt that the forces directed against him, instead of ruining his life, instead of making him feel like he's got nothing to live for, it turned him into a diamond, something that could cut glass. And we saw him on display in Calgary where he put his body against the police in order to make his point that George Bush needs to be arrested, not the rest of us, which he's been working on and the Bush administration did for the last 8 years. A lot of my friends, political prisoners now. Splitting the Sky mentioned Leonard Peltier, who I have been talking about for years. Right now, maybe the number one political prisoner in this country. I mean, is this how we treat our people? And can the establishment be so surprised when the people turn on them when this is the treatment that they get? Splitting the Sky, just to finish your Attica story, which I think is extremely emotional and important. I want my listeners to hear it. Rocky Rockefeller got in as VP, a heartbeat away from the president. Yes, and then they wanted to sweep all of that Attica stuff under the carpet.
Yes, and he jury tampers. And then what happened is there's a whistleblower by the name of Malcolm Bell that worked for the Attica prosecution team. He submits a 60-page report to the New York Times while I'm still on trial. The New York Times sits on the 60-page reports for 3 months while I'm on trial, till after I'm convicted, and then they release it after I go to jail. I go back into jail with the threat of being killed 5 times, and then all of a sudden when they release it, then the succeeding governor, Hugh Carey, orders an investigation, a commission by a former judge by the name of Bernard Shaw. They go for 4.5 years investigating the allegations, and eventually they come down with recommendations. Hugh Carey says they had to close the books on Attica, and so subsequently the 3 major recommendations would be to drop all the indictments against the rest of the Attica brothers, to grant a blanket amnesty to all the state troopers and guards for any crimes coming out of Attica, no grand jury, and then in my case to give me executive clemency, which would make me eligible to go to the parole board on the strength of a governor's recommendation. I should have been released. Well, for the first time in the history in New York, when I went before there was a major lobby by the police union all across the country that if I was released, they would strike, they would boycott. That if I also there was a Senator Dale Volker and Ralph Marino, assemblyman, that lobbied against my release. There was a black guy by the name of Edward Hammack, who was the acting chairman of the parole board. He was facing confirmation in the Senate for his $62,000 a year post. He was leaned on by the guards union and said that if he was responsible for my release, they would make sure that he was not confirmed in the Senate. He forced the guards, he forced the parole commissioners to give me 2 more years, which was the max that they could give you before you could go and see another parole hearing. By the time I got up, I went the next time, I was called the lone scapegoat of Attica from around the world. Now, that said, now we jump ahead in time. Now, when on March the 17th, oh, by the way, in 1971, when there was a major benefit at the Apollo Theater with Aretha Franklin, James Brown, and John Lennon and Yoko Ono were there for this benefit for the Attica brothers. But the first time he ever sang the song, they performed the song "Imagine" at the Apollo Theater for this benefit. It was dedicated to myself. So I just thought that might be a nice little historical plug. But the fact is, Jack, what happened then was, now years down the road, on March the 17th, we hear that George Bush is coming into this country, and that he's going to be speaking before a crowd of 1,500 oil executive types out of Calgary, Alberta, at a place called the Telus Convention Center. Now, when there's also at $400 a plate, he's getting an honorarium of $150,000. Now, all those years that I did in prison, I can tell you that at least on 40 occasions I was beaten and tortured beyond belief. And in my book, The Autobiography of Splitting the Sky, written with my wife, She Keeps the Door, which is available for sale if anybody will go into www.splittingthesky.net, as well as you should also check out our website at www.warcriminalsout.com. And or you could call 250-679-7743. But in this, with Bush coming into town here, basically what he basically does is offered a $150,000 honorarium, and I say each and every one of us has many people that have been tortured and murdered while in the clutches of the CIA, the extraordinary rendition, the political abductions and assassinations that have gone on. And many of us know that George Bush and Dick Cheney are self-admitted torturers. That we know for a fact that these people were behind the bogus war on terror in Iraq and Afghanistan and around the world. Anywhere where there's oil and gas and resources as well as dope, that's where these people are going to be.
That's right.
And we know that they created an inside job on 9/11 in order to justify that incursion into the Mideast and around the world.
Right.
And I can give a whole talk on that specifically at another point, but if you, in the meantime, you can see a talk that I gave in Victoria called 9/11 Follow the Money, where I critique all of the players behind 9/11, who was really behind 9/11.
Splitting the Sky,
now,
we have been doing that since 9/11 ourselves.
Is that there was a correlation between the 38 corporations of those people who had benefited from put option stock tradings to the tune of billions of dollars prior to 9/11, and then compared it to the Rockefeller and Rothschild families and found those corporations all corresponded to their holdings. So therefore, I automatically knew, because my wife and I and our kids, all four of our kids, were in New York 10 days before the Twin Towers went down. We left the day before, and we were in a hotel. We were invited by a Rockefeller, no less, a young kid by the name of Will O'Neill, who happened to be the nephew of Nelson Rockefeller, trying to do something good for his uncle's name to clear up his karma. Well, he paid for our hotel, but come to find out, my wife and my kids, we found out that when we left the day before, we could have been there 2 days longer. But I had a speaking engagement at McGill University in Montreal and was going to stop at my sister's in Buffalo. And my wife said, we got to get out of here. There's something wrong. Women's intuition is the strongest.
Yeah.
And so, we get out of there on the 10th. The next day, the same hotel that we were in was demolished. With the 400 people dead in the same hotel we were in.
Splitting the Sky, you think that was a setup? They were trying to take you out?
I'm beginning to think so more and more.
Because we have a contact who had been affiliated with AIG, and he had been a whistleblower, and they had sent him up to the towers. He was caught.
Richard Andrew Grove on the 98th floor.
Yeah. Wouldn't put it past him. John Trudell's a good friend of mine, and I'm sure you know him. He was the spokesperson for AIM. They actually held Alcatraz for a number of years in a protest.
Yes.
And he went out on the steps of Congress on behalf of Leonard Peltier, and meanwhile they burned his family alive back home.
They killed his whole family.
We can't put anything past these people.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Hey, listen.
So George Bush then comes. All these images of waterboarding, drowning, stress positions, beatings, nakedness, women putting their menstrual pads in Muslim faces. All these dogs barking and beatings and being forced to starve for days at a time. All these things hit me personally. Many of the different things that happened, stress positions and starvations and beatings, were something that I understood, so I could automatically identify. But knowing that 9/11, and again, we need to get. There's a point I would like to make about 9/11. Is because when I was studying those 38 corporations, AIG was was one of the recipients of the billions of dollars that both Richard Andrew Gold was talking about, along with Marshall McClellan, was talking about all the monies that that he ran through his Promus software.
You're hitting me right where I live. Stay tuned. I want to pick up on that when we come back, and then I want to talk about Clinton and Bush coming to Toronto next month, and will you be there? Splitting the Sky with us, splittingthesky.net, warcriminalsout.com. Stay tuned, Deadline Live.